Roy Cooper has until this Sunday to sign or veto a bill that prohibits the performance of an abortion solely because of race, sex, or presumed presence of Down syndrome of an unborn child. House Bill 453 in North Carolina, it's called the Human Life Non-Discrimination Act, was passed Thursday in the state Senate by a 27-20 vote margin. And now here to discuss this bill is Mary Szoch, who is the director of the Center for Human Dignity at Family Research Council. Mary, thanks for stepping in last minute. I know that Senator Kravick is busy saving lives, I understand, in the state of North Carolina. So thanks for stepping in for us on this.
Thanks for having me today.
Well, tell us a little bit about Prenda, what these bills are doing, why it matters in North Carolina as well as every other state.
So the Prenda bills, as you said, ban abortion on the basis of some sort of discrimination, race, sex, or presence of a prenatally diagnosed disability. My older sister, Marita, has multiple special needs, one of which would be a prenatally diagnosable disability. So this bill is near and dear to my heart. It's something we see 67% of babies prenatally diagnosed with Down syndrome are aborted. That's 67%. It's an overwhelming amount. And anyone who has met a person with Down syndrome knows what a gift these people are to our society. It is essential that the governor sign this bill today.
And the status of this bill, for those who might be in North Carolina and personally invested in this, we're going to encourage people, of course, reach out to the governor. It passed the House. There were, in fact, 6 Democrats, and you know, on life issues, that's unusual these days. 6 Democrats voted for it in the House, and then it just passed the Senate on a 27-20 margin. The governor now has until Sunday to act on this bill, and Governor Roy Cooper is a Democrat, and so there's going to be a lot of political pressure to veto this legislation. What would you say is the number one reason he should sign this bill into law?
He needs to stand up for the little guy. He needs to protect life. You know, we know Planned Parenthood disproportionately targets people who are African American. We know that Planned Parenthood promotes they fight against these bills because they're fine with aborting people with Down syndrome. These are the people that we need to speak up for. They don't have a voice when they're in the womb. We need to be that voice for them. The governor needs to be that voice for them.
An interesting thing about this bill in North Carolina is there is currently a non-discrimination bill in North Carolina that prohibits babies from being aborted because of their gender. So you can't just abort a baby because it's a girl or a boy. This would add disabilities, diagnosed disability, and it would also add race. Do you think that is relevant in the climate that we're dealing with right now? Race is such a hot topic. This essentially says you can't abort a baby just because it will be white or black or whatever race it is. Why do you think that matters also?
I think it's certainly relevant. You know, Planned Parenthood's CEO came out and said, hey, Margaret Sanger was racist. Right. She instituted racist and eugenicist policies. But what Planned Parenthood failed to acknowledge was that they're continuing those policies today, that they're targeting African Americans in the womb. And we are at a place in society where people are recognizing discrimination is wrong no matter when it takes place. And it's especially wrong when it kills a child.
That's exactly right. And what is your sense, and I know you're not in North Carolina, but what's your sense of what public opinion is on these bills? Because you can slice the abortion issue so many different ways. Am I pro-life? Am I pro-abortion? Rape and incest exceptions. What is public opinion on the issue of whether a child should be able to be aborted because of its race or because of its a diagnosed disability?
It is interesting. If you ask someone, hey, do you think that we should be allowed to abort a little boy or little girl because that person has Down syndrome? No one says yes, right? No one responds, yeah, we need fewer people with Down syndrome, because everyone knows the gift that those people are, the joy that they bring, the love that they have to share. Right. The same's true when we ask the question, should you be allowed to abort a baby because he or she is white or black? No one says yes. Now, we know Planned Parenthood, though. says yes.
And it really does come down to a genetic test for being born, doesn't this? Because the idea that you should be able to abort a baby because it has tested positive for Down syndrome. Now, keep in mind, those are often incorrect diagnoses, and we've heard many stories of a baby who was misdiagnosed, where the parents went and had birth, and it was a perfectly healthy child. But even if it's a correct diagnosis, the idea of being a country that gives a genetic test for somebody in order to be able to live, that's not someplace we want to go, is it?
No, it's certainly not. And I can tell you, my sister Marita, she does have an extra piece of a chromosome. You know what that extra chromosome does? It makes her better at loving everyone. It makes her better about caring about people and about showing interest in people. If you have a conversation with her, you are the most important person in the room, whether you are actually the most important person or actually the least important. She doesn't care. She's there to focus on you. That's what that extra piece of a chromosome does.
Yeah, and sometimes the things that we broadly interpret as weaknesses are actually strengths, aren't they?
Absolutely. And loving is the greatest strength, and that's what these people who society has deemed not worthy of life, that's exactly what they're the best at.
So what would you encourage people in North Carolina to do?
Today, call your governor. Get on the phone, give him a call. Tell your legislators we want this bill signed today.
That's exactly right. And for those of you who are watching, you might be in North Carolina. You can go to frc.org/Prenda. That's frc.org/Prenda, and you can get information about this issue broadly, but specifically you can get information about how to respond, how to contact your governor, how to contact legislators, but though in North Carolina that's over, but contact the governor. Roy Cooper needs to hear from you, and he needs to hear that you want him to sign this, because the reality is there's going to be so much political pressure encouraging him to veto this. Your voice needs to be heard over there. So Mary Szoch, thank you so much for pinch hitting and stepping in at the last minute. Really appreciate everything you do for life.
Thanks so much for having me.